state owns you through maybe license fees like BBC, through a kingdom like Qatar. The Qatar kingdom owns Al Jazeera. I don't know how many of you actually know that. Or private industry. Now, news is not meant to be a profit-making industry. So if news is not meant to be a profit-making industry, who's going to bankroll news? And if people are willing to make losses, are they willing to do that without agendas? There is the agenda and the tyranny of the market, and there is the tyranny of the politician. Journalists are squeezed between these two tyrannies. And I think all we can hope for is technology to revolutionize journalism. It's already happening. The fact of the matter is that today your iPhone, your Skype, your mobile phone can double up as an instrument of television. You don't need those big television vans. I am hoping that as this gets to be more economical to do, it will also get more independent.
Now, we both grew up in an era where editors were read. They weren't seen. You know, I remember the Nihal Singhs, the Sunanda K. Dattarays, the Girilal Jains of the world. You read them, and you read them with relish. Today, and you're also part of it, not because you want it, but I mean, it's a non sequitur. Today, the editors have become brands.
Or the story.
Or the story. I mean, Shekhar Gupta, who I adore, I mean, apart from his tremendous hold over the English language, is now starting something of his own with you, where you've got a stake. You know, I cannot understand for the life of me what the hell is going on. Television anchors are writing op-ed pieces.
So what?
No harm, no harm. But I'm saying the sanctity of not seeing. It's almost like the film stars of yesteryear. You never saw them, that's why they had that iconic status. Today, if you want to launch a shampoo, they'll be there. So, is the brand of the so-called editor, and I use that word very carefully, has the editor also become enraptured or trapped in this whole brand persona? In some way. I mean, look at Arnab.
I'll say something even more dire than that. It's the death of the editor in both print and TV. Let's not pretend our newspapers are very different.
Not at all.
Because name me a newspaper editor today whom you read. Just one. Name me the editor of a newspaper. Any newspaper, any editor who is still that in the league of the editors, Nihal Singh and Inder Malhotra and Girilal Jain that you have quoted. I can't even think of one. The post of the editor is either dead or dying. And that is the crisis in journalism. Yeah. As for being a public figure, nobody will believe this, but Sohail, it is claustrophobic. Do you think that it is really enjoyable to be under constant scrutiny, that every sentence that you speak is deconstructed by some person in their drawing rooms or on Twitter? I would rather have the distance of anonymity to do my job. It is not an advantage to be well known. It is absolutely a liability. And I think the first rule for journalists is whether you are hated or whether you are loved, you must take neither seriously because it will get in the way of your telling a story. You must neither seek popularity nor must you be bothered about dislike. Because if your eye is on either, you will not tell the truth.
Let's stay with this. Do you think over the years, I mean, the Congress are as much roguish as this present BJP lot? Both were scoundrels and will remain scoundrels par excellence. The Congress had bought into media, you know, and so has the BJP. But I sincerely believe that the BJP, and I mean, there are many idiots in and outside the cabinet as well, which I've spoken about.
Yeah.
But do you think they are creating a more optical illusion of being pernicious than the Congress was? Remember, Indira Gandhi gave us the emergency. She also gave us Rajiv Gandhi, who's now given us Rahul, but that's another matter. But having said that, do you believe there is a tyranny of nexus? And there's a hold that the BJP or the Congress or politicians want to control. I mean, look at the Supreme Court judgment against Jayalalitha. I mean, that woman is a marauding a lady who has no business to be in politics. Corrupt, deceitful, and files defamation cases if you criticize her. So where do you think this is going to take the media? And a quick corollary to that is, then does the media want to suck up to these guys in order to be on their right side, if they have a right side?
Well, there are suck-ups in the media. There are people who suck up. There are people who used to froth at the mouth at a certain point and now won't open their mouths to take on the present government. And you know whom I'm talking about. Um, there are 2, 3 questions in what you've said. I believe, and I will remind you what you said. You once said to me on a show I was doing with Arun Jaitley, your question to Arun Jaitley was, Arun Jaitley, why can't you throw the Giriraj Singhs of your party into the Arabian Sea?
Correct.
Right?
Where is Giriraj Singh? Is he dead or alive?
Member of the member of the Council of Ministers. He's a minister.
Oh, then he's
you
dead.
wanted him
Because
thrown in
under
the Arabian
Modi, there's
Sea.
no one living.
Right. Well. Now, the point is, there's something terrible happening in terms of what is politely called these cow vigilantes. What the hell is going on? Every second day, you're hearing of somebody being beaten, thrashed, mostly Dalits or Muslims, because somebody has decided, some thugs have decided somewhere that they were ferrying beef. Not one case were they actually ferrying beef.
Yeah.
Not that if they were, it would make killing them or assaulting them okay, but to make it doubly ironic.
And that to assaulting women in the presence of police officers.
By other women. Women are thrashing women. I believe that it is extremely important for the Prime Minister to personally shut this down. And I have great problems, as many of his admirers, like Tavleen Singh, for example, who has said it repeatedly, why doesn't he shut this down? Why doesn't he speak on this? That's one part of it. Now the Congress. The Congress has done no better on this issue of beef politics. One of the reasons that secularism is such a corroded debate in this country is because there is no alternative that you can point to and say, this was the better alternative. More communal riots have happened on the watch of Congress governments that we don't talk about. In Delhi, the Sikh riots. To me, 1984 and 2002 are bookends.
Absolutely.
They're absolutely equal bookends of the debate around communalism and communal riots. Absolutely. Right? There are the 92-93 riots that happened in Maharashtra on the watch of the Congress. And even on this debate, you have Congress leaders like Digvijay Singh who are lining up and saying, but we banned cow slaughter first. We did it first. So there is very little, it's a difference of articulation, positioning and degree only. And therefore, I look for the genuinely libertarian politician who doesn't exist in India, who will get up and refer to what, Vinita, you spoke in your opening, freedom of speech, freedom to be who you are. Where is that person who will say live and let live? Maybe I don't eat beef, maybe you don't eat pork, let whoever wants to do it. Really, are these the issues of modern India? Where is that politician who's willing to get up and say that he or she does not exist?
Again,
in any party.
It's not about the politician alone. If we as a people want to vote on lines of religiosity, of Hinduism, or the brand of Hinduism or Islam that we believe we practice, I mean, that in itself is silly. I know of people, many of whom are related to people in this room, leading industrialists living in Delhi. Don't worry, they will be named and shamed in October 2017 when my biography is published, who actually were proud that Muslims were killed in Godhra. They were equally proud that Sikhs were killed in 1984. These are the scoundrels that the Fickis and the CIIs of the world award and honor, these rascals. And I will name each one of them. But when the tragedy of ideology and ideas is so severe, where do you think we are headed as a country? Look, let me be honest. I've said this even in the Calcutta Telegraph debate where you were also speaking and I was speaking. I have never understood Narendra Modi's silence on critical issues. It's going to bite him very badly. He thinks he's above it. No one is above it. In public domains, you have to speak. You can't be silent. So that's his problem and he has to deal with it. But as a society, don't you believe you, many a time I, several other people, we are immediately polarized. You cannot have a liberal view. If you have a liberal view, you're either anti-national or anti-Hindu.
Yeah.
So whenever someone says, are you anti-Hindu? I said, actually, I don't give a shit because, I'm an atheist. I really don't care. So whether you tell me anti-Hindu, anti-Muslim, I really don't care. And I love women of all religions. I mean, men too. But that's the reality. So do you think polarization is now beginning to take shape in a very divisive way?
It's a very good question because sometimes when I travel outside India, particularly last year when the Dadri lynching happened and when the rationalists were killed, I was asked about whether India is intolerant. And my answer to that is always that I still do not believe that India is intolerant for the simple reason that all of us push back against any attempts at that intolerance. And we continue to have this thriving democracy, right? That's one thing nobody's taken away from us, where you and I can sit here today and say, Mr. Prime Minister, why don't you speak, right? So I do not believe that our political establishment is ever going to throttle our democracy. I think the architects of our constitution were such wise men and women that they have institutionalized those rights. We are never going to be a China, and we don't want to be China. That said, there is a lynch mob out there, and that lynch mob is not in the government, it's not in the BJP, it's not in the Congress, it's on forums like Twitter, it's on forums like Facebook, where they organize themselves and they target people who have the guts to be an individual.
But someone is supporting them. Someone is condoning it. Someone is saying,
yes,
okay, I'll turn a blind eye,
yes,
do what the hell you want.
I agree. There's
Who is
patronage.
that?
There's patronage. And
but who's that person?
I think they're politically organized. I do think they're politically
organized.
organized.
Give me a name, RSS or BJP?
No,
I don't think RSS has the canny sense
I genuinely don't. I genuinely don't know. Because when I argue with the RSS who come to my shows, I can have a very healthy argument with them. They don't call me prostitute and prostitute and all this bullshit.
Can you imagine?
Now,
you have
what
a former army chief,
yes, who uses
VK Singh, an absolute scoundrel, a shame to the Indian army, who uses the word prostitute for journalists, and that rascal is in the cabinet. I mean, what kind of a country are we becoming? That man should have never been in the army in the first place, but anyway, he got there, became army chief. I mean, I shudder to think if this man had continued or his tenure had been extended, what he would have done to the army. These are the people who are actually putting together nomenclature which is the most despicable.
But to come to your point on tolerance and the environment we live in, what really worries me is people, all of us. We have forgotten the art of conversation. Yeah. We have forgotten the capacity to absorb disagreement and still have a drink or a cup of coffee after that. It's okay. You may have one view on VK Singh, I may have another. You may have one view on Modi, I may have another. You may have one view on Kejriwal, I may have another. So what? That's what makes us who we are, the capacity to have that conversation. What happened to conversation? How did we kill nuance, complexity, intelligent debate?
So what happened? No, I think, this is serious. I'm originally from Calcutta. We have a culture of salons, and that doesn't refer to your hair. Where you have intelligent conversation and you disagree, but you don't be disagreeable. Yeah. That entire area has gone out of our lives. And I see young parents, I see old parents, they don't read, they don't encourage their children to read. Their form of gratification is a smartphone or, a wasabi meal or wherever the hell they send their kids to. Conversation and dialogue is missing. And it's missing in our television studios, it's missing in our lives. Why do you think that's happening? And this is a serious sociological question.
Short attention spans, we're addicted to our phones, we're addicted to our computers, we've stopped reading books, we've stopped meeting each other. Even when we sit at the same table and we go out to dinner, we don't talk to each other, we talk to our phones. We have stopped talking. We have stopped reading, we've stopped writing, we've stopped talking. We've stopped thinking. Our brains have been squished into for, against. Are you for this? Are you against this? Are you for? Do you hate BJP? Do you love BJP? Do you hate Congress? Do you love? I may like something about BJP. I may dislike something about BJP. I may like something about Congress. I may dislike something about the Congress, right? I am allowed to be a free thinker. The problem with liberalization in India is we liberalize the markets, not our minds.
Let's come to a topic that you've covered extensively, you've written about, you've been praised and criticized for your stance. What is actually happening in Kashmir? What is the nub of the issue? And let me tell you, I'm no nationalist or anti-nationalist. I don't need to wear my badge of nationalism to please anyone. But I see that there is no long-term strategic planning for Kashmir. It is tactical, and tactics never work. But what is the real issue? Explain to all of us, what is Kashmir all about? Why is it a melting pot at one stage and a boiling keg on the other?
So like all complex matters, there are many answers to this, many reasons for it. But I'll try and keep it short and simple. For many decades now, it's almost been 25 years, like in the Northeast, This is not unusual. We have an insurgency, long-running insurgency in Nagaland. Similarly, we've had a long-running insurgency in Kashmir. Now, there have been a series of mistakes that the Indian state made, including rigged elections in the 80s, that undermined the value of democratic institutions. The Election Commission, under a wonderful man called James Lingdo, rectified that. And since 2000, we have had absolutely fair and free elections with high turnouts. But historic mistakes were made. On the other hand, you had the external dimension of Pakistan. Obviously, fishing in troubled waters, sending in terrorists across the line of control, fueling discontent, adding petrol to, let's say, an already existing flame, right? Instead of being able to douse it. Then there is the issue of genuine alienation. That alienation needed a political dialogue. To my mind, the one leader, the one prime minister who was the wisest on Kashmir was in fact a BJP prime minister, and his name was Atal Bihari Vajpayee. And he, in my presence, went to Srinagar and said, इंसानियत के दायरे में जो कुछ मुमकिन हो हम कश्मीर के लिए करने के लिए तैयार हैं. इंसानियत. Right? Now what we did was, when I say we, I mean the state. It doesn't mean BJP, Congress. Both governments did it. We only look at it crisis to crisis. Upsurge of violence to upsurge of violence. In the in-between time, we think, oh, lots of guests to Gulmarg. Hotels are packed. Jyotsna's here. You know, we say Lalit is packed in Srinagar. There's no room. Taj is packed. There's no room. Kashmir is normal. No. Normalcy has nothing to do with tourists and shikaras. It's lovely when it is. But as they will tell you themselves, you need an institutionalized political engagement. And I will tell you one thing. Yesterday I attended a Kargil commemoration and General VP Malik was there. The wisest words on Kashmir, and Arnab Goswami will probably call him anti-national, have been spoken from the former army chief who said, stop sending my boys in the line of fire because politicians failed. So if you really care about your soldiers, get the politicians to solve it. The army, the police and the CRPF is not here to substitute for the failure of politics. Yes, there are global influences like everywhere else. There is a creeping radicalization. There is a creeping Islamism as well into what was once only political alienation. That Islamism and that radicalization was able to creep in because we did not address the political alienation, so we have multiplied our problems. And there is an urgent need to not be in denial. If the Prime Minister can initiate a Naga peace accord and be proud of it and pose with Muiva and say, look, I brought this insurgent to the dialogue table, why can't he take the same initiative in Kashmir?
For one reason, because you don't have an insurgency leader. Agreed. You remember in my presence, Jaitley famously told you that whenever you have a sore throat, the Hurriyat loses its voice.
It was a good joke. It was a good joke, but guess what we did? We, at least when I say we, Advani met the Hurriyat. If Advani had done it today as Deputy Prime Minister, can you imagine what he would have been called? Advani did it as Deputy Prime Minister.
Let's go back. Let's see.
Today the Hurriyat has also, you have even taken away their authority because you never negotiated with them. So you have the danger of a faceless, nameless, street mass protest. Who are you going to negotiate with now?
So that's my point. And if you have sponsored insurgency from across the border, who are you going to negotiate
with?
But
the government hasn't stopped engagement with Pakistan.
Which brings me...
I don't get that.
Yeah, so
you don't want to stop engagement with Pakistan, but you want to stop engagement with the Kashmiris, your own people.
No, so apart from dropping in on someone's grandson's or granddaughter's wedding...
Nawaz Sharif. That's what he did on the 25th of December.
Doing all of that...
Nobody called Mr. Goswami didn't call the Prime Minister a pro-Pakistan dove. Did he?
Arnab knows where his bread is. Forget where it's buttered.
That's the point. That's the point, right?
So, let's come back to Kashmir. What are the three things wrong that are continuing to happen? I have a lot of affection and regard for Mehbooba as I did for her father.
I do too.
I was very fond of Mufti Saab. Yes. I'm very fond of Mehbooba.
Yes.
Obviously, they know Kashmir well. So as do the Abdullahs. Where are we missing out on the political plane as far as Kashmir is concerned, both at the center and the state?
I would have, if I were in government or had any say, I would have sent an all-party delegation by now. It's very important to not do politics on Kashmir. It's very important that on an issue as sensitive and a national issue like this, you get all parties on the same side. You don't talk in multiple voices, especially because you have a Pakistan dimension. Let our politicians go as one delegation. Go to the hospitals and go to both hospitals. Go to where the injured soldiers are. Go to where the injured Kashmiri civilians are. You need de-escalation of conflict. You need that, and you need that especially because you care about your soldiers. Don't make your soldiers a cover for being hawkish on Kashmir while being dovish on Pakistan. Explain that to me.
Okay, it's not about what was said
No,
in
no,
the
I'm
context
talking
of
about the
Burhan
policy.
Wani and all.
Yeah.
But sometimes I feel when there's a crisis such as the one we did have, when there are people who are known terrorists who've been assassinated, I would call it an encounter assassination,
Yeah, sure, whatever, kill.
You know, we cannot be venerating them for any reason.
But who has venerated him?
No, I agree.
Who
but
has?
There is a perception.
This is a mythology. No, these are the dangerous times we live in. You repeat an untruth often enough, it becomes true. Who has venerated him? Actually, the only person who did not want him killed, ironically, is the BJP's coalition partner, who has who has said that had the forces known that this was Burhan Wani,
we wouldn't have killed him.
Yes.
That is bizarre.
This is the BJP's coalition partner. So when the BJP supporters come after journalists and say stop venerating Burhan Wani, not a single